are looking live at Talladega Superspeedway, home of 200-mile-an-hour speeds. Cars just inches apart on these dramatic 33-degree banks. And with thousands of fans pack the infield here for days just for the opportunity to cheer on their favorite driver over the weekend. Today, the biggest names in the sport compete to win the Busch Series Aaron's 312 in Sweet Home, Alabama. Talladega Superspeedway, the biggest and baddest track in NASCAR. Oh, trouble, boy, it's the big one. Yeah, I know you run this here, baby. The goal here, avoid disaster. It's not a question of if the big one will happen, it's a matter of when. Returns to Talladega and joins a field full of star power. But who will steal the spotlight? Martin Truex. Martin Truex Jr. has back-to-back wins here at Talladega. Will he catch his fourth in a row? Here's the checkered flag for Clint Bowyer. Clint Bowyer grabbed his first win of the season last week in the desert. Another first today at Talladega. We may have to wait for the dust to settle to find.
10, 9.
It's about time to go racing. Tony Stewart finished upside down a week ago, and he's still making news this year. He'll drive the Old Spice number 33 Chevy today. And yesterday, he was fined $10,000 by NASCAR, put on probation for the rest of the year for the post-race news conference in Phoenix last weekend. But it is the comments he made Tuesday night on his Sirius radio show that has everyone talking.
It's like playing God. I mean, they can almost race at that point instead of the drivers doing it. I mean, it's happened too many times this year. I guess that NASCAR thinks, hey, wrestling worked. It was for the most part staged, so, you know, I guess it's going to work in racing too. I don't know that they've ran a fair race all year.
Well, and as you can imagine, those comments were not taken lightly by both NASCAR and the entire racing community. A few days removed since your show, where do you stand on those comments? Do you still back them?
Well, you know, I had a meeting yesterday morning, obviously, with NASCAR, and, you know, the group of guys that I met with yesterday are a group of officials that I really have a lot of respect for, and you know, they assured me that it doesn't work that way, and you know, until there's something that proves it different, I mean, I believe this group of people, so, you know, it just has been a lot of circumstances that have seemed like it has been that way, and it's, you know, a frustration had been building, and it's been a hot topic of conversation, obviously, this year with, you know, a lot of people in the garage area. But, you know, like I said, I mean, I trust the people that I met with yesterday, and I trust when they tell me that it's not that way, that it's not. So, you know, if I'm wrong, you know, I apologize for being wrong. But, you know, this level of racing is very intense. It's very there's a lot of money spent to be competitive here, and you know, it's like I told him yesterday. It's not about the money to me. I want to win those trophies each week, and you know, it was reassuring to me yesterday. You know, it made me feel a lot better knowing that the people that I met with yesterday just reassured me that it's not done that way, and that, you know, knowing that at this and the best in the business, and you want to know that everything's on the up and up. So you know, having them tell me that is a lot better about what we talked about.
Well, Tony, on a lighter note, one of your competitors, Jeff Gordon, yesterday said, you're the Rosie O'Donnell of NASCAR. What are your other competitors saying about what happened this weekend? What you said about this sport?
You know, I'm not sure I really should talk about it. I mean, there's, you know, there's a lot of people that have, you know, come up and talked to me about it, but it's, this is a very intense sport, and you know, there's a lot of times that we don't understand why NASCAR does the things they do, but there's reasons that they do the things they do. And you know, like I said, I mean, the best thing that happened was me going and talking to them yesterday. It made me feel a lot better about it. you know, my regret is that I wish I would have went to them first before I let the frustration get so bad that you know, I talked about it, you know, to the public. But you know, NASCAR is a pretty, you know, they haven't become this successful over 58 years by making bad decisions, and you know, I can't imagine that a group you know, would compromise the integrity of the sport after talking to them. And if you compromise it, you're not going to be successful for 58 straight years. So you know, like I said, I feel a lot better after our meeting yesterday, talking to NASCAR, and you know, them telling me that you know, it just doesn't work that way. So you know, until something happens that proves it otherwise, I mean, I believe them 100%.
All right, Tony Stewart has to get going. Brent, it's hard to believe 20 starts in both Busch and Cup combined. He has never won here at Talladega.
Yeah, that's remarkable, Jamie. He has 6 second-place finishes in Cup races, and today he's going to start alongside his Busch competitors for the 5th time, where he has never finished better than 15th. Folks, we welcome you to our pit studio. I'm Brent Musburger, joined by Brad Doherty and a very special guest. Strange not to see him getting the 29 card, Jeff Burton, a veteran of nearly 450 Nextel Cup starts. And Jeff made his Busch debut nearly 20 years ago. And of the 24 wins he has in the series, 2 of them were this year. Dramatic fashion in Las Vegas, and of course again at Atlanta. Jeff, thanks for joining us. And let's take the issue of the caution flag. We hear fans talk about them, and they field up at the end of the race. Where do you stand on what Tony said and NASCAR with the cautions?
Well, the first thing I want to say for sure is that I don't have any doubt in my mind that NASCAR runs a fair race. If I believe for a minute that NASCAR was doing things to impact someone's opportunity to win the race more than me, I'd quit. I'd find me another way to make a living. We have to have integrity, and I have to walk into this garage area knowing I have the same chance as everybody else. So I'm not concerned about that one bit.
Brad, do you think NASCAR plays favorites? You hear fans, they say that to me all the time. Oh, they did it because they want Jeff Gordon to win, or they want Junior to win. Do you think they do that?
Absolutely not. The integrity of this operation cannot be compromised in any way, shape, form, just like Tony Stewart said. And but I want to also say I admire Tony Stewart and what he did. I like the fact that he spoke up and has an opinion. With that opinion, though, you have to be able to go before the sanctioning body and take what's coming with it. But don't be everyone doesn't have to be in the same shoebox like other sports. Get up, speak your mind, then let's get this thing worked out, and then let's go race.
No, let's push that story aside. We've got some great stories about to unfold in the NASCAR Busch race, and as you watch today, you'll notice a not-so-familiar face, folks, on the pole. 19-year-old Brad Coleman. He's a tough Texan in his first year in the Busch Series, and it's the 5th consecutive race at that number 18 car owned by Joe Gibbs. They won the pole at the restrictor plate tracks here and in Daytona. And also of note, Toyota with a strong qualifying effort. The manufacturers enjoyed a lot more success at Busch. Dave Blaney and Jason Leffler start right behind Coleman. And for the storylines making their way through the rest of the field, let's head down below to Alan Bestwick. Alan?
We are ready, Brent. Hey, you know, to win here at Talladega, you have to have a strong car, miss the big wreck, and maybe get a little drafting help from a friend or a teammate at race's end. Martin Truex Jr. has won 3 straight Busch Series races here at Talladega. We'll talk with him in just a couple of minutes. Mike Massaro.
Alan, you know, since 2003, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated is undefeated in Busch Series competition here in Talladega. The man who started that 4-race winning streak, Dale Earnhardt Jr. In just a few moments, we'll speak with Jr. to get his thoughts on how the complexion of the race is shaping up, and maybe even get some insight on his future at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. Dave Burns?
Mike, last week Clinton Boyer won the race at Phoenix, but this week it's a very different racetrack, a different race car, and he's got a different crew chief. We'll talk to Clint about making it 2 in a row and making that victory lane video the latest in the season so far.
The 2007 NASCAR Busch Series season is underway. Kevin Harvick takes the checkered flag. Juan Pablo Montoya has won it here at Mexico City. Jeff Burton takes the win, and Kyle Busch slams the wall. Burton will sail out of turn 4 and win his 2nd in a row. Edwards takes the victory.
Man, that is awesome.
Carl Edwards, he goes back-to-back after winning at Bristol.
He takes the win here in Texas after spinning early in the race.
And here's the checkered flag for Clint Boyer, who will take the win.
welcome you back to the Aaron's 312. And, folks, the big one that's renowned here at Talladega. Hard to stay out of no matter where you are on the racetrack. And, Jeff, how do the big ones get started? What do you think is responsible for that?
What happens is after the big one, everybody gets on TV and they say, well, that's Talladega. But it's not Talladega. We start them. The drivers start them. Typically, we start them because we're trying to squeeze into a hole. If you don't protect your position, if you don't try to stay in line or make yourself a hole, you'll find yourself in the back. You've got to protect your position. And typically what happens, a guy tries to squeeze into a hole and there's not enough room there. Once a chain reaction starts, boom, then you got this big wreck.
Well, Jimmy Johnson hosted us last night. I know he was talking to you about, was it heart rate?
Yeah, absolutely. Jimmy Johnson was telling me last night that heart rates get up to around 130 to 150 beats per minute throughout the entire race. So what that tells me, at the end of this race, when the sunshine comes up and heats up, if you're not in great shape, you could fall out of the seat here, and your decision-making becomes questionable as time goes on. And just like Jeff said, guys trying to stick race cars into spots that are not there creates an opportunity for the big one.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that one guy has avoided it for the last 3 years, and he's standing by with Alan. So let's go down below.
Well, Martin, we've been talking about the big wreck. How much is the big wreck on your mind when you start a race here at Talladega?
Well, it's always on your mind. It's always in the back of your mind when you race here at Talladega. But you can't go out there and worry about it and wait for it to happen. You just go out there and race, and you hope that when it happens, it's behind you or you're not around it. So just go out there with the best for Chevrolet and hope it don't happen around us today.
How and how much should we look for you to be working with a teammate, Dale Earnhardt Jr., during this race?
Well, hopefully our cars will work well together. There's been times when they have, and there's been times when they haven't. So he's starting a little further back, so we'll just see how long it takes for us to get around each other, and if and when we do, we'll try to work together. But if not, we'll just go out there and have some fun.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Martin Truex Jr., he starts 13th, hoping for a good draft day today. Upstairs to Jerry Punch.
Thank you very much, Alan. You know, for decades, drivers have described drafting at Talladega as sort of like a 200-mile-per-hour dance. And like at a dance, you got to have dancing partners and lots of friends to help push and pull you along. Otherwise, it'll get pretty lonely out there. Now, DJ, as a driver, how do you approach the topic of drafting partners at a racetrack?
Well, it's always nice to have a fast teammate. And I've always told my teammates, look, if we can work together and we don't compromise each other's position as far as getting in a hole or taking another partner, then that's fine. But when it comes down to the end, what we're all looking for as kind of a greedy bunch of drivers is that fastest car that can help us. You know, you want to work together, and early in the race that can work fine. But when you get to the end, looking for that car that can get you to the front.
Wouldn't imagine you guys will be a greedy bunch of drivers. No. Not at all. Now, Andy, we've often seen crew chiefs on pit road and spotters high up on the roof running up and down trying to make deals to help their drivers. How does that work?
Well, Jerry, what they're trying to do when they're running up and down pit road, the crew chiefs and crew members you'll see running up and down pit road, they're trying to make deals for their drivers to make green flag pit stops. So when they come in the pits, they come back out, and they're not hung out to dry or running without a drafting partner. Now, the guys up on the roof, the spotters, are the ones that are trying to make the deals for the guys on the racetrack to try to get them in line and get them as far up in that line as they can and maybe get the lead. But ultimately, it's up to the driver to decide who he runs with and who he doesn't.
Well, there are a lot of unknowns here at Talladega, but the one given is the driver with the most friends is always the one with the fastest car, which means that speed is the key here at Talladega, and that means restrictor plates are the key in the engine compartment. For more on that, here's our Tim Brewer at the Chevy Cutaway car.
Thanks, Jerry. When you roll into Talladega, you've got a 750 horsepower engine. First thing they're going to do, they're going to take the carburetor off. They're going to nice open plenum, a lot of horsepower. First thing they're going to do is put this restrictor plate on here. It's 29-30 seconds is the opening here, 4 holes. They're going to put this spacer on here. And when the air goes down through the carburetor, down through the spacer, it's going to hit this restrictor plate, and more air is going to try to come back up through here through reversion than it is anything else. It's like taking a deep breath when you're running real hard, like 7,500 RPMs, like these engines are going to be turning, putting these straws in your mouth. Take a deep breath. Really limited air supply. I don't function too well at high speed with a restrictor plate. Neither does it.
And for more information, log on to ESPN.com, keyword Auto Tech. Well, still ahead of us on NASCAR Busch Countdown. With a contract deadline looming, fans want to know if he'll be back with DEI, but that's not all that's on Junior's plate.
Hey, I'm Dale Earnhardt Jr. Coming up next, me and Shane Huffman and our day on the USS Cleveland.
And And Clint Boyer has won a pole here before, but never finished first. How important is it for him to win his second consecutive Busch race? We'll ask you. You're watching ESPN on ABC.
Y'all know who run this here, baby. And you know it's true.
Folks, check out the Earnhardt family success here at Talladega. 17 wins between father and son. And on the eve of what would have been his father's 56th birthday, Junior makes his third Busch start this season. Junior also owns the 88 Navy car driven by Shane Huffman, and today, Shane's name not on the car. He and the team are honoring fallen Blue Angel, Lieutenant Commander Kevin Davis. And the relationship Junior and Shane have built with the U.S. Navy recently took them aboard a ship off the coast of San Diego. Shannon Spake was there.
All right, Dale, Shane, we're headed out to the USS Cleveland. What do you guys think?
We look forward to meeting the troops and talking to them about what their life's like, what it's like to live on a ship for that long period of time.
It'll certainly give you a new respect for these men and women that are doing this.
We'll see you guys on board.
We'd like to tell you how happy we are to have you. We like having guests on board.
You got a lot of NASCAR fans on board?
I watch this NASCAR stuff. Talk about the car of the future, right?
Car tomorrow, sir.
Car tomorrow, I'm sorry. I have boats of yesterday. We'll step out on the bridge wing here in a minute and show you how fast my boats can go. All right. Which is about 8 miles an hour on a good day.
We'll find a really nice place for this.
For you in commemoration of your little ship ride on an amphib, oldest amphib in the United States Navy, I might add. So we appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You guys have a good time?
Yeah, it's awesome. It's cool. Get to meet everybody, shake a lot of hands, and find out where everybody's from and what their story is. That's real cool.
I mean, the ship was really, really interesting. It's really old, so there's a lot of history, and you can see how things have been repaired and replaced, and that's pretty cool. But meeting a lot of the guys on here and how they go about their day and what time they get up, go to bed, what their jobs are, and sort of their whole mindset is really cool.
So we are now going to head back to the San Diego area. So thanks, guys. It's been a great time.
I appreciate you guys coming.
Thanks, Shannon. Mike Massaro standing here with the guy who's known as royalty when it comes to restrictor plate racing, Dale Earnhardt Jr. The burning question, though, a lot of people still want to know, as we get closer to your self-imposed deadline with the contract negotiations, how are things progressing?
They're doing the same. We're just trying to get it done. We're here, you know, you got to it's hard because you got to concentrate and block it all out for the race weekend, but we've got a couple good cars. We haven't qualified well for either race, the Busch race today or tomorrow, but our cars got gears in them that'll race really well, and that's sort of the reason why we can't qualify good for an impound. But I'm pretty excited to get the race started. I think we can get to the front pretty easily. We got a real fast car, and just trying to hopefully have a safe race. I'm really worried that you know, we don't want to have one of them big crashes and everybody gets through here in one piece.
Yeah, a lot of people talking about the potential for that big one, as they say. New asphalt for the Busch Series for the first time, a change in the restrictor plate this weekend. How do you see this race shaping up?
Well, I think the Busch guys hadn't raced here since they paved it, and I think they were pleasantly surprised at how smooth and easy it is to drive, and hopefully that transitions into a smooth and easy race without a whole lot of hiccups. And I mean, guys are going to get together and we're going to have some cautions and whatnot, but hopefully, like I said, it's a pretty safe race and we'll come out on top.
Well, lots of luck.
Thank you.
Guys, there's many reasons to expect this guy to be strong this afternoon. Let's add just one more to that list. This is the car that Martin Truex Jr. drove to victory lane a year ago. Brent?
And he has thousands of fans cheering for him here. Folks, Talladega is one of the most fan-friendly sporting venues I have ever been to. Thousands camping out in RVs, both outside and inside this lovely track. This ESPN telecast of the NASCAR Busch Series on ABC is available in high definition on HD, presented by Vizio. Clint Boyer trying to make it 2 in a row in the NASCAR Busch Series. He's with Dave Burns. Dave?
And Brent, at the start of last week's race at Phoenix, pretty much everyone knew, and Clint knew, that he had a winning race car. Clint, how different is it today at the start of Talladega, which is so unpredictable?
Everybody's got a winning race car today. Even playing field, it's just you make the most of your opportunities, and hopefully you get the right push at the right time, right help, and get this Campbell World Chevrolet in victory lane again. But I'd like to give a shout out to our crew chief, Dan Deringhoff. He's off getting married this weekend, and hopefully we can bring him a good wedding present.
And you know, I checked earlier, the resort does get ABC, so we'll find out if Dan's watching this race or not, Brent.
All right, Dave. Well, car number 29. Not Mr. Burton, but Scott Webber out in there, and I've got to ask you, do you miss not getting ready to get back in the saddle? You're sitting up here right now. What do you think?
Well, I love driving Holiday Inn Chevrolet, but what I love about it is that it's a limited schedule. That's what I enjoy about the Busch Series, is that you get to run some races throughout the year, but not run all of them. You don't have to concentrate on points. To me, that's what's fun about the Busch Series.
And Brad, what group of drivers? You're a pretty good handicapper now.
I'm great, man. I'm going to tell you what, I got Kevin Harvick and Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming up from the middle of the pack. But best of all, look at this, man. I've got the grass cut, I've got the car wash, and the dog wash. Look at this view right here, baby. I'm going to kick back. We're going to watch the TV. You got HD TV at the house. We're going racing.
I have to compliment you on one thing. You didn't say a nasty thing about Duke. And Jeff
not yet. Not on camera.
That's only because I'm standing here.
Folks, it's about time to go racing. So for the ceremonies, let's go trackside here at Talladega.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats as the U.S. Army Team Redstone Color Guard, Redstone Arsenal, Alabama, presents today's colors. We will also pause for a moment of silence for the victims at Virginia Tech. Please remain standing as Chet Roden, pastor of Southside Baptist Church in Talladega, offers our invocation.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the beautiful day you've given us. We thank you for this sport of racing. We pray for your protection. I pray for these drivers. I pray for these fans. And God, you'd give us a good day. In Jesus' name, amen.
And now, to perform our national anthem, please welcome from Leeds, Alabama, Lori Harris Dillashaw.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Just day for racing here in Alabama. And it is time to get back in that saddle again for the Aaron's 312. you back to the Talladega Superspeedway. We get ready for this week's NASCAR Busch race here. The Aaron's 312. You know, Kyle Busch, he has led better than 760 miles in the series this year, but he has yet to win a Busch race. Time to start him up.
Now, for the most famous words in motorsports, our Grand Marshals. Patricia Driscoll, President of the Armed Forces Foundation. Ron Carden, Representative for the Armed Forces Foundations, as well as Jeremy Ringgold and Addie Butterworth, Representatives for the Wounded Warrior Project.
Gentlemen, start!
Ready to go green. And let's go to the gentlemen who are going to call the event today. Jerry Punch with Andy Petrie and Dale Jarrett. Jerry.
Thank you, Brent. Well, if you just mention the word Talladega, fan, it will conjure up visions of high speeds on the three-story high banks, high drama, incredible finishes, of course, and the high risk. Everyone trying to avoid the big one. Hello, everyone. Glad to have you with us here at Talladega Superspeedway. And guys, for 3 decades, it seems that 2 different strategies have worked on race day. There's what you call the attack mode, where when the green flag waves, you're real aggressive. You go to the front, light the fires, and try to stay there. There's a defend mode, where when the green flag waves, you just bide your time, be very patient, don't show your hand, you find a place to ride and hide to try to miss the big one. Well, that's what Dale Jarrett did right here back in October of 2005. DJ only led 2 laps all day long, but when the white waved, here came Dale Jarrett passing 3 cars, and he would take the victory here at Talladega. A remarkable display of patience and planning as Dale Jarrett won for the 2nd time in Nextel Cup competition. And DJ, you know, what is the best way to play it here at Talladega?
Well, Jared, the best way is just whatever works for you and your car on that particular day. You obviously, if you have a fast race car, the front is a great place to be. But if your car can't get out there and lead, and you find yourself running in that 10th to 30th place position, the average is that you're going to probably get caught up in an accident. So it's better than average that you probably will, because it does happen here. So you've got to make that decision. Last few years, that hanging back, waiting to those last 25 or 30 laps has worked extremely well for me and some other guys, but not everyone goes by. We'll have a lot of different guys playing different strategies, and we'll see what works today.
Andy, the other approach was the one that Dale Earnhardt Jr. used here back in 2003.
Yeah, Jerry, and that laid-back strategy works for some people, but I'm a stand-on-the-gas kind of guy. I want my guy to stand on the gas, get up front, pass as many cars as possible, because I think that the best play of these big wrecks, and the more cars you have behind you, the less chance you have of getting in trouble. And you know, the other thing I like about it is the car looks better up front than it does running in the back.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. led 60 laps that day. Well, when we return, we'll take starting grid and speak with our in-race reporter David Ruderman, who hopes to fulfill his dream today. You're watching ESPN on ABC. Back at Talladega Superspeedway, let's take a look at our starting grid, where a 19-year-old from Texas starts his 7th ever career race from the pole. Brad Coleman will lead him down. And while you take a look at our starting grid, let's visit with our in-race reporter, driver of the Aaron's Dream Machine Toyota, David, who starts back in 15th position.
David, Dale Jarrett, have you got a copy?
Yeah, go ahead.
David, I know this is an exciting day for you. You've got a great paint scheme on that Aaron's Dream Machine. But just got a quick question here. We had a restrictor plate change the other day after practice. From a driver's perspective, how does that change this race?
It's hard to say, really. I mean, he told us the speeds were pretty high. We slowed him down, made him a little more sluggish off the racetrack, but you're still only seeing about maybe 100 to 150 RPM drop through the corners. You know, it just kind of sounds the same around here.
All right, David, good luck today.
All right, man, you guys have a good day.
All right, let's visit with his crew chief, Jerry Baxter.
Hey, Jerry Baxter, Andy Petrie up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, Andy, how you doing?
Pretty good, Jerry. What kind of changes did you have to make to your car with that smaller restrictor plate?
We went through the whole gear ratio scenario there, you know, trying to get the thing right. They went back and ran a motor that night and seen what the horsepower loss was, about 24 horsepower, and we just changed gears accordingly.
10-4, I bet you're hoping the rest of those guys lost more than 24. Hang tough down there, Jerry, and have a good race, buddy.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, guys, we will have 8 high-definition onboard cameras. We'll ride along with 8 different drivers today for 312 miles at Talladega. When we come back, we'll wave the green flag and get some last-minute updates from our pit reporters on pit road as we come back to the world's fastest stock car facility, Talladega Super Speedway, in just a moment. Back at Talladega, the green flag just moments away as we check in quickly with some final stories from pit road. First, here's Jamie Little.
Well, Doc, last time we saw Kevin Harvick at a restrictor plate race was in Daytona. He won the Busch race and backed that up the next day with a 500 win. I asked him about his chances today. He said, my car drafts well. It's good. I'm here for the win. Mike?
For Kyle Busch, race 1 in Daytona very much set the tone for his season. He led a race-high 46 laps, only to have mechanical failure erase what could have been. For Busch, 2007 has been accented by flashes of brilliance, but punctuated defeat. Today marks another opportunity. Busch is driving the same car he dominated with in Daytona back in February. But today he's trying to do something here that he couldn't do there. Go the distance and get to victory lane. Dave?
Mike, most of the time to win a restrictor plate race, you have to have a drafting partner, someone to push you to the front of the field. Well, at Daytona earlier this year, no one could push Dave Blaney because he had no rear bumper. Early contact on the track ripped that off. Today, with a full bumper on that number 10 car, Dave Blaney could be the Toyota in victory lane. Alan?
The championship leader, Carl Edwards, starts 9th today with Burns. His car had a small vibration during qualifying, but because of NASCAR rules impounding the cars between time trials and the start of the race, his team couldn't do really about it. They're hoping an early caution tire change will alleviate the problem. We'll keep an eye on it from down here on pit road. Doc?
All right, thank you very much. 312 miles. 117 laps and a purse of over $1.34 million. Well, a crowd of over 100,000 diehard fans are on their feet as NASCAR's Busch Series finalists prepare for an afternoon of high speeds and high risk here on the high banks of the world's fastest stock car facility in Talladega, Alabama. As they head to the green flag, let's listen in as we go full throttle. Turn 4, 19-year-old Brad Coleman trying to become the 37th different driver to lead a lap in NASCAR Busch competition, and he will do it as the Chevrolet for Joe Gibbs Racing leads lap 1 here at Talladega.
Well, I'll tell you what, I bet they hope they got extra batteries up there on top. Those spotters for sure talking a lot. A lot of communication up there. A lot happening right now. See, Tony Stewart kind of opting for my strategy to start with. He's at the back right now, but huge pack in the front of the right here right now. And this is just going to change continuously all day. And the spotters' jobs here, I mean, they're so far away trying to see everything that's happening, but to have here is invaluable.
There's Tony Stewart in the Chevrolet, owned by Kevin Harvick Incorporated. Back there behind Donnie Neuenberger. Stewart in the 33 car, the Old Spice Chevy, opting to Go to the back of the pack and stay out of trouble early on. He has 4 NASCAR Busch Series starts here, but has never finished a Busch race at Talladega.
Boy, the action's up front here right now early. These guys are jockeying back and forth, trying to figure out who they can draft with.
So we see the first 5 have gotten single file there. That starts from 6th on back, and of course that's back to about 26 from that point. But it won't take long before they'll be trying to take the lead away from young Brad Coleman.
Guys, here are the 2 Ganassi cars, the 41 of Reed Sorensen and the 42 Juan Pablo Montoya. They're in the back of this gaggle of cars.
Working pretty good. That middle slot, the 99 car and the 5 car working together. Yeah. Working that middle, and they got, once they get up to the front, they got to move out. They got to find a line to get in once they get there, but that middle works pretty good when they get 3 wide.
You're exactly right, Andy. It's amazing. It used to be where you never wanted to be at Daytona, Talladega. You never wanted to get yourself in that middle position, but the way the cars have changed, the drafting's changed over the years, and especially with now the pavement that we have here, how much adhesion you have to that, you can go anywhere you want, and that middle actually opens up because they're splitting the air on both sides of you, and that air is not there, so you can get a good run. But you're right, you do have to find somewhere to go once you get up in that top 4 or 5. You've got to get settled into it.
There's the 33 of Tony Stewart being shown back in 39th position.
79 is what the...
Let's check in his pits with Dave Burns.
And Jason Leffler with a problem on track, too, guys. Tony's car popped out of gear, and one of the things he just said 79. It went to 7,900 on the rev limiter, but that's why he dropped way back. Car popped out of gear.
All right, yellow on the track for the first time today, and Jason Leffler, who qualified 3rd and pulled up on lap 1 off of turn 2 very high, now having troubles, and Dale, he's had some contact with the wall.
Has had some contact with the wall, and we'll see right here. Something else might have started that contact.
Oh, he got turned him straight into the fence.
Yeah, you know, this is part of the bump drafting that goes. And I think this is just a product of that.
Top of 2 now. Top of 3 again.
It looked like a pretty straight bump, but it turned Jason Leffler's car to the right and got him in the wall. Didn't have much room to work with.
Yeah, you know, and sometimes you're actually right there in that position. Jason Leffler might have been in a position where he was having to roll out of the throttle just a little bit. And when you do that, sometimes your car will just move around on its own. And so he may have been correcting the wheel a little bit. Bump is all it takes, and you're straight in the wall.
All right, we are under yellow for the first time today. Lap number 4 at Talladega. A bit of a tap from behind, and Toyota driver Jason Leffler has significant damage on the side of his car. They come roaring out of turn 4 at 190 miles an hour, and it doesn't take much to have a problem.
Under our first caution here at the Aaron's 312, and note the driver in 4th, the 60 car, Carl Edwards. He has dominated the series so far this year. And Brad, I know right away there was some bump drafting out there, and you've got some questions about that.
Yeah, Andy, you know, last year, the Cup Series, DJ and those guys were beating the crap out of each other with the front end of their cars, and they asked them to soften up the front ends of the cars. Did they do the same for the Busch Series? Because they'll see the bump drafting already taking place.
Yeah, well, Brad, they did kind of mandate a little bit softer bumper in these Cup cars just to kind of take away some. The Busch cars, they can brace them up all they want, and I talked to some of these guys down there, and they have been bracing them up front and back, and that's probably a good thing to keep from tearing the cars up. But boy, it sure does transfer a lot of energy, and we just saw that with that 38 car, and it may not be a good thing.
Yeah, and really because these guys with the aero package that they have, the closing rate on the car in front of you is even what we have in the Cup Series. So they need that bracing there not to tear it up. But on the other hand, they have all of that. Yet actually a harder shot. And in talking to these guys, that's what they say from the Cup Series over to the Busch Series is when they get a run and hit somebody, it's a pretty good jolt. And as we saw there, it can create a problem.
See seems like all the time we see these problems at restricted plate races on the straightaway. They're always turning on, wrecking on the straightaway, hardly ever in the turn.
We're supposed to be the greatest drivers around the country and assembled, and certainly talent-wise that's true. But how many times, if you go back and count, how many times are our wrecks on the straightaways? It's amazing. We're going straight, and that should be the easiest time. But again, getting that jolt that you get, it can create a problem. Again, all you have to do is have the steering wheel turn one way or the other, and that's what happens.
All right, the field set for a restart here at Talladega. One caution coming out on lap 4. Jason Leffler's car behind while being repaired. We'll update that momentarily as we get ready to go back to full throttle.
Easy there. Don't pass. Stay in line. You're good. You got the 24 about one back. Looking to go high there. All clear. 24 right with you. Always bumping you and pushing a little bit. It's all good. Still all clear.
The youngster, 19-year-old Brad Coleman, still leading. Ward Burton having a great run right behind him in second spot in the Ford. There's a look at Ward's Ford Fusion out of Motorsport Stable, the former Daytona 500 winner, who hopes to be able to make up for the problems that were swept in an accident early at Daytona in the initial Busch race of the year. We've already had one incident today involving Jason Leffler, and he's standing by with Jamie Little.
In the first victim of the bump drafting. Jason, what happened?
I just got hit from behind. I know Casey Mears was behind me, and I'm sure someone got him. But by the way it got into me, it just lifted my back tires off the ground and steered me right in the fence. It's, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm pretty pissed off, and just really, really angry. But I mean, that's the way it is. That's racing. You take the good with the bad, and get this great Clips Toyota up front next week.
Doc, that just capitalizes a frustrating and disappointing season so far for Jason Leffler.
All right, Jamie, well, contact, and Ward Burton is tipped. His car gets sideways. There's Rudeman's car sliding broadside into turn 1. Other cars up against the wall, against the concrete.
Keep it up straight. You're okay. Just lock her down. All right. We didn't hit nothing, guys. Keep rolling. When you get a chance, keep rolling. Pace car's just off at 2 there.
And Ward Burton's car was running second, got a tap from the high side. He tried to avoid the car coming down. He got sideways. Martin Truex. There's the 29 of Scott Wimmer.
Tell you, real lucky that wasn't what we call the big one. Not too many cars. It only looks like this 29 car is the only one that's got any significant damage from that. That could have been huge.
Yeah, that had the makings right where it happened. Obviously, with Ward running second, of tearing up a lot of race cars, but these guys did a terrific job in missing that.
Let's see if we can see what happened here a moment ago. Now watch the 2 car and the 27 of Ward Burton.
Just a light tap there, but these cars they have so little downforce on this kind of racetrack, and they're kind of they're making a pretty good turn right through the tri-oval too, and once they make contact.
Yeah, you don't realize just how much, in looking at this racetrack, how much steering you have in the car through the tri-oval, and it doesn't take much. And it looked like Ward, there's a seam right there in the racetrack where, after this was repaved, when you're right down against the yellow line and you get to that first white line, there's a seam right there, and actually your car will get in that, and it'll actually move one way or the other. And it looks like maybe Ward's right front got in there and went up the racetrack just a little bit. I'm just guessing that happened because I've had it happen in my car before.
Here's Martin Truex onboard camera. He goes up and
he hit the wall, guys.
Oh, he hit the wall pretty hard, DJ.
Yeah, we didn't see that as we were talking about the 29. Yeah, this looks like it's going to put an end to that streak.
Martin Truex, who had won 3 in a row, and now damage at the right side of that car after pancaking the wall. Here's Mike Wallace on board with the Geico Chevy.
Backer. Come on. Blue, that's it, go. You're clear.
So Mike Wallace uses his spotter and does a great job of getting low and avoiding the accident at Talladega. Well, lap number 9, it breaks loose on the front straightaway. A tap between Boyer and Burton, and suddenly we've got a dozen cars spinning back with the green in a moment.
This is why I'm hot. This is why I'm hot.
Back at Talladega Superspeedway, we are under caution for the second time today. An incident involving, on lap number 9, a dozen cars. Now, what happens when you take a former NBA All-Star with a passion for racing and give him a ringside seat at Talladega? Watch Brad Doherty. Watch this accident here.
Brad looks like he's studying for a test.
Now, you think he's pumped up now? Brad Doherty,
oh, yeah.
7-time NBA All-Star, right on top. There's our pit studio, our ESPN pit studio with Brad Doherty and Brett Musburger and company. Here's a look at the drivers involved in the incident. Clint Boyer, no damage on the Boyer car. Martin Truex pancaked the wall with the right side of his car. A crinkle in the right front fender for Ward Burton. Scott Wimmer has the front nose pushed in. Marcus Ambrose and David Rudiman also spun in that incident. As we check in, where Alan is caught up with one of the cars and one of the drivers involved in this incident.
Yeah, Martin Truex Jr., there's what's left of his car, and here is Martin smiling. I know you want to see what happened because you're not really sure. What did you see from inside the car?
Well, this guy spinning in front of me, and you know, I was good. I had a line through there. I was going to be fine. I just got hit from behind, so sure why or what happened behind me, if somebody forgot to let off or couldn't see or what was going on. Just Talladega, typical deal. But you know, streak comes to an end at 3. It was a good number at least, but hopefully better luck tomorrow for sure.
Let's see if we can show you what happened there. We'll pick up a little late where you could see it, but the streak comes to an end, and that is a sorry thing, and we're sorry you're out. Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it. Hey, at least it ended at 3. That's a good number, so we'll have better luck tomorrow, I hope.
Here we go. Here's another look. See if you can see what happened here. As Ward got up and maybe got tapped and then behind.
Yeah, just got hit from behind, you know. Nothing you can do about that. So, had a good car. Thank all these guys that worked real hard on it, and we'll be back. Get them next time.
All right, thanks, Mark.
All right, as you look at that accident, I got to ask our experts up here, when you have cars that have contact like that, the 2 and the 27, who's the guy that everyone's going to say maybe could have?
Well, I mean, it's just such close racing. And again, going through that trove where you have a good bit of wheel in the car right there. The back end is light. And again, I think that seam may have had a little bit to do with that, because the car looked like the 27 car may have moved up just a little bit. And that's not putting blame on anybody, because you're in there and the air is moving around everywhere. So things are just going to happen. But you know, it's unfortunate. But as long as we're going to run with these rules, these things are going to happen.
And you're going to run within 1/4 of an inch of each other. These are the things that you're going to have happen. I mean, it's just when you're running that close together.
All right, let's get an update on Ward Burton and his pits with Mike Massaro.
Well, Doc, just after the incident, Ward Burton radioed in saying he got a little bit of help, got pushed by the 6 car, which started that. Reminiscent of exactly what happened in February in Daytona when Ward Burton charged to the front and got caught up in a wreck running inside the top 10. They've rebuilt this race car from the A post forward and the C post backwards. Over the last 3 laps, though, they've done some more repairs, stopping on 3 consecutive laps. In the process, they've changed a total of 8 tires, because after changing the first set, they felt a vibration. They came back down to make sure everything was okay by changing all 4. Doc?
All right, Mike, thank you. It has been a difficult week for Virginia native Ward Burton. He and his wife Tabitha and 14-year-old son Jeb spent much of the week at Virginia Tech. On the campus there in Blacksburg. Ward Burton's Conservation Foundation is a close partner with Virginia Tech and the university. He has so many friends that teach there, and obviously it has touched the Burton family, not only Ward Burton but his brother Jeff Burton. But Ward and his family spent quite a bit of time there in Blacksburg this week, and still very, very touched and very saddened by the events of a week ago. So a tough beginning here for Ward Burton in the early laps at Talladega. Let's check in with Alan.
Doc, Ward's brother Jeff is among the interested observers down here as repairs go on to this 29 car. Scott Wimmer behind the wheel today. Scott, I talked with you before the race. You had really high hopes. What happened in front of you?
I'm not 100% sure. It looked like 27 car maybe got turned around. And, you know, we run into each other the whole race long, and it's just hard to keep them under control. But I don't know. This car was really good. These guys are going to work hard. We're just going to end up points racing now. But proud of the guys. We'll get him back. You know, Jeff's a big cheerleader for this team, so he's down here helping out and trying to go after that owner's championship. So hopefully we don't get hurt too bad.
Thanks, Scott. Sorry for your bad luck today. Let's go out to pit road, Dave.
Alan, wanted to update on Dale Earnhardt Jr., who's always a story here at Talladega, but when he starts 25th and goes to fifth in 2 laps, we know he's got another good race car. He was involved in that, had a right front tire cut down. They came down pit road, changed 4 tires, and then Jr. reported a bad vibration. They brought it back down pit road again. As they took the tires off and changed that set, they checked to see if there was any suspension damage or brake rotor broken perhaps. Nothing that they can see so far. So for now, Junior stays on the track hoping they correct that problem. Also, Dave Blaney on and off pit road, damage to the front of his car this time, and it's a lot worse than it was at Daytona in the rear.
Certainly when you damage, thank you very much, guys, when you damage the front of a car at a racetrack like Talladega or Daytona, it can be serious in terms of trying to be able to get the car back up to speed. As we retake the green flag here at Talladega, and the youngster again, Coleman, leads them down with a challenge from David Reagan behind him.
Yeah, you heard the disappointment in like Scott Wimmer and Jason Leffler's voices as they were being interviewed. You know, they come here knowing that this is a really good chance that they have, because everybody has a chance to do well here, and you get down to those last laps, you have a chance to win, and that's been taken away from them early.
Yeah, we see that 18 car got a great restart, and I tell you, sometimes that can really work against you at Talladega. He got about 10 or 12 car lengths out on these guys. They used that momentum, and they lined up on the outside and just moved the motor right by.
All right, David Reagan takes the lead. He becomes the second leader of the day, the 21-year-old driver, driving for Roush Fenway. But take a look at the high side. Here comes the 42. That is Juan Pablo Montoya, and he will sail by, entering turn 1 and take the lead.
We look down on the bottom, we see Kyle Krisiloff in the 14. This is about as far up as he's been all year in a Busch race, so he's very confident. This is the kind of racetrack, though, that you can do that. These guys that come into this restrictor plate race, I'll tell you, it can be anybody's race. Anybody can win here.
Yeah, you really can, and this racetrack has so much grip that it just gives everybody confidence. Handling doesn't come into play hardly at all with these race cars, and especially this early on. So guys just hold it to the floor and go as far up to the front as they possibly can, and we see Juan Pablo Montoya in the lead right now.
It looked like everybody just kind of hung the 6 and the 14 down on the bottom. Everybody lined up on the top, and it kind of sent them back in the pack a little bit.
Juan Pablo Montoya, the same car he had at Daytona when he started at the middle of the pack and was running into the top 6 when they lost and broke a valve and had to call it a day. They knew this car would draft well. The question was, would he have the experience on this big track to be able to utilize the speed and the draft?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Does he have the experience? I mean, obviously, this is a totally different ballgame than what he saw at Daytona. He's going to have to do a lot of blocking here to keep the lead, and how experienced is he going to be to do that? But he has so much talent and a good race car, and that's two things that help a lot.
DJ, he ran the ARCA race here last fall. In fact, he ran in the top 3 all day. Steve Wallace led most of that race. Montoya ran second and ended up finishing third. How much does that translate to what's happening now here in the Busch car?
Well, it helps a lot. Now, any experience that you can get being out there with other cars and other drivers, just learning what the draft is really about, and that is learning how does it help you. Where can you make the most of it? It's not just about being right behind another car or pushing another car, as we see Casey Mears going for the lead on the outside here. It's also about learning how close you can get, how much of a bump that you can give someone, and exactly which lane is going to be the fastest before the end of the day.
It looks like Casey Mears is looking for some drafting partners here, and he gets hung in the middle. We see the 22, Mike Bliss, go on the outside of him. Well, it doesn't take long. He was just fighting for the lead about 2 corners ago.
Yeah, you got those 2 Dodges up there in the front. Casey Kane really giving Juan Pablo a nice push there, and kind of pushed Casey Mears back to about 5th or 6th.
And with more on Casey Kane, let's check in the Evernham pits with Jamie.
Well, guys, we haven't seen a whole lot of great things to talk about from Casey Kane. It's been a tough year, but he told me right before he got in the race car, Talladega is all about your drafting partners. He said in practice on Thursday, he hooked up Greg Biffle, who's right behind him in that 16 car, shot him from 17th to the front. Well, just now, guys, he went from 10th to 2nd in about 8 laps. He said he is desperately waiting for a good finish, and this is the same car from Daytona. He said he knows it has the speed. It's all about your dancing partners. Doc?
Exactly the same car. They never got a chance at Daytona, involved in an accident not of his own doing in the first 15 laps. They repaired the front of this car. He knew we would be awfully good here. And how about Carl Edwards? He took that outside line with Casey Mears with him, and they go to first and second here on the field.
It looks like we see something developing here with that outside group being the quick line right there. I don't know if it's just coincidental. The good cars are up there, but it seems like every time that the guys get up front, they form a line on the outside and motor right by. And here we go. The outside lane's working again for Tony Stewart.
It's just like the other racetracks that we talked to, momentum is something that you really want. And here, the higher you are, the less wheel you have to put in that car, so you're slowing it down less. As a crew chief, Andy, you're always telling us, turn that steering wheel the least amount you can, and you'll go faster. And that's exactly what Tony Stewart's doing. They obviously have that problem fixed, and he's on the move right to the front here.
Dave Burns, Tony Stewart making a move now.
And that was really the plan at the start of the race, Doc, until the car popped out of gear. They qualified 37th. Crew chief Dan Stillman told me that's about what we expected. So Tony planned to race right to the front. When the car popped out of gear, he had to fall back. And when that caution came out for Jason Leffler early on, he said, oh, well, that'll work, because he knew he could get back with his pack. And as long as that thing stays in gear, Tony will have a very good race day.
Yeah, Dave, but one thing I'd be worried about is they run really soft valve springs here, so these engines don't like to turn a lot of RPMs. That thing pops out of gear. It could cause a little damage that may come back later.
I guess that's a caution that Tony didn't mind seeing too, wasn't it?
Yeah, he didn't. He wasn't questioning that caution play.
And back to Dave in the Tony Stewart pits.
And Andy, just so you had those numbers one more time, Tony did report that he saw the tachometer rev up to 7,900. That was 400 over the 7,500 he was normally running at. So what do you think on those soft valve springs?
Well, these cars don't like to turn the big RPMs like you see on these other tracks. 7,900 you would think would be safe at a lot of tracks, but here on these restrictor plate racetracks, they try to take advantage of every little thing. So, you know, it could be a little issue for them later if they're not careful.
All right, a couple of the Hendrick cars up front as Casey Mears and Kyle Busch now take the lead. Back with more from Talladega after these messages and a word from our ABC stations.
Start anywhere, you never know when it's going to happen.
It's like walking through a jungle and trying not to get snake bit.
You can be at the back of the pack or be running second and still getting a wreck at any time. Once one of these big pileups start to happen, you're just along for the ride. Hopefully you're just in front of the wreck, and if not, you know, close your eyes and hope you make it through.
You can't really do anything about it. You just go out there and race and see what happens.
If you avoid it, it's just pure luck, if you're a lucky day. It'll be exciting to watch. I don't know if it's going to be a whole lot of fun to be a part of.
Well, let's get up to date on what's happened so far with our NASCAR.com reset. It has become obvious at Talladega. The high line has been the money line here early going, and they are just kissing each other's bumper. Look at Juan Pablo Montoya there up on Tony Stewart. We go back up to the booth.
Great action up front. The 24 is Casey Mears. Brad, as the 5 car, his teammate Kyle Busch, and what a tandem of drafters these two, the 24 and 5 are.
This is just incredible racing. I mean, these guys, Kyle Busch seems to be able to push that 24 car just out to a 5, 6, 7 car length lead, and nobody else has been able to do that. But we talk about the high line, but then the next thing you know, these guys come right back around on the bottom, tucked up together, and that's the key, is Kyle Busch is able to stay with Casey Mears and not just push him out and let him go. He's able to stay right.
We're able to keep that gap just right against the bumper, and that really does make a big difference.
All right, Rick Hendrick has 8 Cup wins here at Talladega, but he's never been a Busch Series owner. His cars run 1-2 as we check in their pits with Mike.
Well, Doc, just a couple of years ago, Rick Hendrick got really discouraged with how badly his teams were getting beat by the DEI cars at restrictor plate tracks. Also a little bit discouraged with how there was a gap between his own race cars. So what did he do? He implemented a specialized team completely dedicated to restrictor plate racing. Less than a dozen people. Oh, and we've got trouble on the track, and it's Kyle Busch upside down.
Big time crash. Kyle Busch goes upside down and rolls down across on his roof here on lap 26. Cars comes back over, and now side over side barrel rolls and comes to rest on its wheels. A horrific crash here at Talladega on lap 26 involving Kyle Busch, and thankfully the window net is down. There the safety crews on the scene immediately, and Kyle Busch is climbing out of that car. Wow, listen to this crowd.
Well, that's a true testament to the safety of these race cars. See him just jump out of that car like that. That was what looked like a very violent wreck, but man, he just jumped right out of there. It's a real testament to the safety features that these cars have.
Yeah.
I'll show you again here. It doesn't take much here. Now, Kyle Busch, left side of your screen in the 5 car.
He moved to
to the outside to go around Casey Mears. It looked like Tony was going to go out there to help him, and could have possibly been a little bit of contact. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be, because you can get yourself out there and all of a sudden the air's changing, and just a horrific wreck. But once again, Kyle Busch gets out and watch away.
We sure did a lot of damage. It looked to me like right here, as we watch this, it looked like that maybe they all started stacking up. It's hard to say that, you know, Tony Stewart wasn't getting some help from behind, or maybe even further back than right behind him. Like they were all just kind of stacking up.
Yeah. Yeah, when that happens, usually because everything changes, the air changes, and what you've been doing there, you might have been wide open at that time, and then all of a sudden things change. And so, yeah, you can't put any blame on anybody, I don't think, here. Although I think we do see a little contact between the 33 and the 5. But when he pulls out there, that car is automatically going to start coming back a little bit, because he's come out against a brick wall of wind right there. Even though he's got to run, that car automatically slows down when he pulls out there until he starts getting that help.
So if you're Tony Stewart, and you're trying to get out of the gas and you're getting hit from behind, have you ever had that happen where you get hit from behind and you can't actually slow your car down and try to avoid that wreck?
Somewhat reminiscent of the Brian Vickers, Jimmy Johnson contact in the Cup race last fall. Inconsequential, wasn't intended to happen. One car makes a move, another one just gets a slight tap, and off they go. On board here with David Rudeman.
Back it down, back it down. Stay high, good job.
You can see the tire flying through the air. David Rudeman just went under the tire. It looked like it just ripped it right off the wheel.
Yeah, that's you know, almost a helpless feeling. You're sitting there wondering what's going to happen up in front of you as you're within 100 yards of everything happening, but you have debris flying everywhere and cars going everywhere. Everybody trying to avoid it, but David did a great job.
Okay, leaders on pit road. Let's go down to Jamie.
Well, guys, Casey Kane decided to roll the dice and stay out. He came over the radio after that incident and said, "What in the world was that?" The crew just told him, "Stay out, you're fine."
Pablo Montoya in, and 4-tire change. He stalls the car leaving. Tough to get these things refired, but he does it. A 4-tire change, chassis adjustment, tape off the front grille. Allen.
Casey Mears pitting from the lead, giving up track position to keep the 24 car here in the pit box so they can check the right rear corner of the car where Kyle Busch bounced off at the beginning of that accident. They have time. They know the caution flag laps take a while here. They know there's plenty of time left in the race as well. Make the repairs, give up the track position now. You'll get it back later.
Yeah, with the way the draft works here, you want to make sure you get your car all fixed back up, because you can make your way right back up to the front, but you got to have those aerodynamics right, and they're going to work on that car and get it right. We see them working on the 17 car here too, doing some of the same work.
Once again, we are under caution. A frightening incident on lap 26, the 5 car. 21-year-old Kyle Busch trying to make a move. His car goes sideways. There's contact. It gets airborne. And fortunately, Kyle able to walk away due to NASCAR's stringent safety requirements. But a horrifying crash here on lap 26. Yellow here at Talladega for the 3rd time today. That puts the 90 car as our Aaron's Lucky Dog Free Pass Award winner. The 90 car, the City Financial Ford of Stephen Light, gets back on the lead lap as the Aaron's Lucky Dog Award winner under caution. Speaking of Aaron's, let's check in with our in-race reporter, David Rudeman.
David Rudeman, Dale Jarrett, you have a copy?
Yeah, go ahead, DJ.
David, watching this race from the booth, looks pretty wild out there. What's it looking like from your driver's seat, and how is your race car?
Race car's excellent. Jerry Baxter and guys brought me an excellent airstream machine here, and after that slide down through on the apron there, they got her pushed back down pretty straight there, and I think we're in good shape. Yeah, it's you think it's fun to watch where you're at? Man, it's wild, I'll tell you. I don't know. I'm afraid we're not done yet, you know what I mean?
All right, good luck to you the rest of the day.
Thanks, man.
All right, I got a trivia question for you guys. Andy, let me ask you here. How many colors are on the paint scheme for the 99 car of David Rudeman?
It looks like all of them, Jerry.
And that's a correct answer. Indeed, this paint scheme was designed by a 9-year-old Marina Sampson from Madras, Oregon. She was the winner of a car art competition, the Aaron's Color Your Way to Talladega contest. She won it, designed the color scheme for David Rudeman's car, and she and her entire family are here all the way from Oregon to watch NASCAR Busch Series and Nextel Cup competition for the weekend. And, hey, pretty good job of designing that car.
Young lady did a terrific job, yeah. Yeah, using all 64 colors. And I walked in the race shop down at Michael Waltrip Racing last week, and they were getting this car prepared. And I said, oh, my goodness, that is quite colorful and won't be missed. And so far, it's David's doing a good job with the race car. And hopefully he'll get that Toyota up towards the front before the day ends.
All right, we have had 3 caution flags in the first 30 laps. The most phenomenal one, the one that came out 4 laps ago when the 5 car of Kyle Busch spun and flipped. With contact, he has walked away from the car. Heavy damage. Well, his car essentially destroyed, but fortunately, NASCAR's stringent safety guidelines allowed him to put that window net down and walk away. As we are getting set for the race, we go full throttle.
Watch your outside. Good job. Clear by 2. You grab that thing, do the can. 2 back, 2 back. Outside, outside. Clear. Clear. Another 2 back on the 35 and 6 back off of him, Danny. South side here, all clear. Good job, all clear. Let's go now. Got a pack of 3 behind him. Pack of 3 behind him. Now hang tough here. Really need to bring your head back. Right inside. Come to your bumper here. Looking inside. That's your bumper. You 3. Now then it's about looking inside the group. Inside the 20. Find up inside here. Got the 42, the 14. Stay up high, Shane. Stay up high. Stay up high. See it. Stay up high. Up by the wall there. Up by the wall, Shane. Up by the wall. Against the wall.
And the 88.
Stay real high. Stay real high.
88 caught up against the wall, the Navy Chevrolet. As you see the field come rumbling down, and Casey Kane will lead the 12th lap he has led all year long. He has not led a lap since Bristol back in March. He leads him down, and there's Dale Earnhardt Jr. lurking in behind the 20 car of Eric Almirola. More on Dale Earnhardt Jr. Let's check in with Dave.
And Jerry wanted to give you an update on that vibration Junior was reporting on earlier. Still slight and constant, but not causing him a great deal of trouble. And obviously the car is still very fast. No tires on that last stop. He did view that wreck of Kyle Busch. He said, man, I haven't seen one like that for a while. Glad he got out okay.
There's Dale Earnhardt Incorporated trying to go for 5 in a row here. As you know, Martin Truex had won 3 in a row. His car now heavily damaged. He is out of it. Dale Earnhardt Jr., his last race here was back in 2003 in the Busch Series. He dominated the day. And he said in the pre-race, I didn't have the gear to qualify, but I have a great gear for the race itself, and he's showing it.
Showing it already to the front of this pack right now. And I'd like to make a call to the guy that helped push him there, and that's Mike Wallace in that 7 car. You talk about people that really enjoy racetracks, and Mike Wallace loves to go to Daytona and Talladega. He does such a terrific job.
Yeah, we saw the 88 car coming off of pit road. He did make it on pit road, and they changed tires, and he's back out on the racetrack. We saw the leaders go by, putting him 1 lap down.
Yeah, he restarted, and that restart in 4th, and it looked like it was tough getting up to speed. He must have had a really serious vibration or something, and not come to pit road to change the tires.
Well, with all that debris that was on the racetrack there, on the cleanup, he could have just got a puncture in one of the tires. Lucky to get it on pit road.
Well, we're back in the next lap and have another leader here.
That would be David Gilliland driving the Ed Renzi machine, and you looking at the front bumper of the 2 car of Clint Boyer, our most recent winner in the NASCAR Busch Series last week at Phoenix. He picking up his 4th career win.
We look here at the telemetry. We see this throttle. They don't back off that throttle anywhere around the racetrack. They just hold it right flat on the mat, and we see they don't lose many RPMs. You get some barrel bump drafting going here.
And Boyer just turned hard left to the inside and took Carl Edwards with him, and now they pull by some 10 cars. Look at the 25 car caught in the middle and sliding back now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. You find yourself getting passed on both sides, and basically you're getting the dirty air and not a lot of help right at that point in time. And so you go sliding back 10 or 12 spots, but we'll see David Gilliland probably start back to the front here as soon as he gets a little bit of drafting help.
It's kind of funny how that middle works. If you're leading and getting pushed to the middle, it really kills you. But if you're back in the pack trying to make your way up through there, it seems like that if that middle ever opens up, you can make some headway up through there.
And look at this gaggle of cars, 3 wide. They were trying to go 4 wide a moment ago at 190 plus miles per hour. There's the 33, the top of your screen there. That is Tony Stewart trying to come through the pack. And here is Earnhardt Jr. Kevin Harvick also involved. He's on the move, the winner at Daytona in the 21 car.
You know, 4 laps ago on this restart, they started out just pretty much single file, and I said, well, they're going to get strung out a little bit here, and it only takes a couple of laps before everybody's caught back up, and we have over 20 cars in the lead pack now.
All right, our aerial coverage of this 3,000-acre complex brought to you by Goodyear, helping NASCAR fans get to the finish line for the past 25 years. Great panoramic view from the Goodyear blimp high above Talladega Superspeedway. Watch the drafting of the 42 and the 7. They basically have tied their bumpers together.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you need, is somebody that has a car that can stay right on you like that, not just push you that little bit when you get to the corner, get a big separation. Now we can see the 42 falling back a little bit, and that's going to, even though he's pushed Mike Wallace up there pretty far, Mike doesn't have that help now, so it's going to be more difficult for him to get to where he wants, which is in front of the 2 car.
As you watch that 3-wide draft come sailing by, we'll mention that Jason Leffler has now gone to the garage area, as has the 52 car of Donnie Neuenberger. So 2 more cars headed back to the garage. Leffler involved in that first incident on lap 4, getting a tap from behind and bouncing off the wall, damaging the right side of his Toyota.
We see that outside line getting organized again with Mike Wallace heading that up. Got Juan Pablo Montoya up there. And now another outside line forming up front.
And they are pushing and shoving and bump drafting, and a bump a moment ago almost got Mike Wallace in the 7 sideways.
You know, these are the things that we talked about, especially Juan Pablo never being here. It has to learn. That is a terrible spot to get hit. You know, you want that bump drafting help, but it's very difficult when you have steering in the car right there. It's just like being in the corner. Really hard hit right there. But Mike Wallace did a great job of saving it, and they moved up a couple of spots.
Yeah, what makes one driver a better drafter than another driver? I mean, some guys seem to really do well at Daytona and Talladega, others struggle.
Well, there's probably a lot of things. Obviously, a really good race car can help a lot of times, but understanding the air and what you can and can't do and what is best at what particular place on the racetrack. But guys that have that feel, Dale Earnhardt, we used to always talk about him being able to see air. Obviously, you can't really do that, but he had a sense, I believe, that no one else had, and he knew that just from the feel of his race car, and he understood exactly what the aerodynamics around these race cars was doing and what the air was doing. So he took advantage of every bit of that, and he taught us all a lot. And that was the best thing about being able to have a good enough car to race with him and around him, was that you learned so much just by watching the things that he did. And that's where most of us got our knowledge from, was racing with and around him, and he was helping us to understand a lot more about drafting techniques.
Dale Earnhardt Sr., an 11-time winner here at Talladega. Meanwhile, back in the garage area, Mike Massaro has caught up with Kyle Busch.
And Doc, after taking a wild ride, Kyle Busch has now emerged from the care center with a clean bill of health, but looks a little bit aggravated, and I can't blame him. What happened?
First off, I'm all right, so that's a good thing. But just out there racing, and you know, I got a good run, good push from Stewart behind me, and got a run on the outside of Casey. And, I don't know if Stewart decided at the last minute he was going to follow me, and he was already alongside me or what. But you know, the best driver in NASCAR wrecked me and turned me sideways and right into my teammate. It was just like what happened with Vickers and Johnson and Earnhardt last fall, but luckily Casey didn't get in the mess. At least I don't think he did. I haven't seen a replay yet, but you know, it was a pretty wild ride there, but you know, it's a privilege to race on his racetrack with such drivers at that caliber.
You always know it's a possibility when you come to Talladega, but after taking a ride like this today, how difficult will it be to get behind the wheel again on Sunday?
I'm paid to do it. I got to get back out there and do it again. So you put it behind you and keep going.
Thanks, Kyle. Doc, another disappointing day for Kyle Busch.
Unfortunately, though, he's able to walk away from what was a scary incident there just a few laps ago. And we are being told that NASCAR has warned Juan Pablo Montoya, the 42, about some aggressive driving after that bump drafting incident a moment ago in the back of the 7 car. Here's what's happening at Talladega. At 190+ miles per hour, they are swapping the lead back and forth. It was a Toyota a moment ago for Rudeman. Now Carl Edwards makes the move back up front. They are pushing and shoving more when we come back in just a moment. So far, and time for us to go over to the Chevy cutaway car. Tim Brewer, aerodynamics are going to be critical here at Talladega.
Yeah, Brett, the teams work a lot of hours making the car as slick as possible, lowering the drag NASCAR comes back, they put this roof deflector on here. What it does, creates a big hole in the air. Therefore, the cars behind the car accelerates up. Draft really great. Back here in the rear of the car, this is a conventional rear spoiler the teams use for downforce. NASCAR, on the other hand, they want to slow the cars down. They come in here and put this gurney on here, facing forward. Creates a lot of drag, puts a lot of downforce on the car, slows the car down, makes it better for racing for NASCAR. Back up to you guys.
All right, Timmy, thank you. And one driver who doesn't have a good view right now of what's happening is Regan Smith there, the 4 car for Ginn Racing, and the hood has just come completely up right over the windshield.
Yeah, there have been times I wanted to close my eyes and try to go through some of the stuff right here, but this is unfortunate. He had a great run going. He was doing a terrific job up in the draft, but this looks like maybe just the hood pins just pulled straight out.
And that much air can just take the hood and just buckle it, huh? You just take it right off the hinges and slide back?
Oh, yeah, Doc, I'm telling you, there's so much force and that hood pops up like that. It's a wonder it doesn't knock a driver unconscious when it hits the roof. But really kind of strange how that happened, unless he got in, maybe bumped with somebody in one of those accidents there and knocked the pins loose for that hood to pop up like that. Boy, I'll tell you, that's kind of a scary thing.
We've had 13 different lead changes among 12 different drivers, and Clint Boyer was being shown as a leader. I say was because there goes the 24 car of Casey Mears, getting another push by Mike Wallace, and Mike gets another assist, getting someone to the front.
Yeah, he's doing a terrific job of that. But, you know, it wasn't that long ago that Casey Mears had come into the pits under that caution and was working to fix his car, and he was at the very back of the pack, and here he is probably less than 15 laps later. He's in the lead as Greg Biffle makes his bid for the lead.
All right, Biffle under the assault of Mears, and here to the inside goes Mike Wallace. He gets a little bit of a tap from behind, and Wallace tries to head to the front and get by the Mears car.
Carl Edwards pushing Mike Wallace up there, and Mike Wallace does such a good job of getting himself in position at these racetracks, and he has a good race car, and he's put it out front right now, and it's going to be interesting to see if his car is fast enough to stay there for very long. That's what you always wonder. Yeah, you can get pushed there, but how long are you going to be able to stay up front?
Mike Wallace has won here at Talladega in ARCA competition back in 1995. He's won at Daytona in the Trucks, ARCA, Busch Series. He is very good on these super speedways, and now he is the leader at Talladega.
I tell you what, when you got these guys like Mike Wallace, and he knows how to work that draft, and you see these guys getting right up on his back bumper, and you know, he knows how to work that air.
Yeah, and the thing is Mike has a fast car. It might not be the fastest car here, but when you get out front, to stay there, you're really going to have to do some blocking maneuvers. You're going to have to use not only that air that you've got in front of you, having the clean air there, but you're going to have to use some of that with guys coming up from behind you. He's got Carl Edwards right behind him, but as you saw going down the backstretch just a second ago, he had some guys trying to come from the outside, and he was trying to use that.
Yeah, I don't really call it so much blocking as it is just using that air to your advantage. You got to use the guy behind you. As you can see, the draft boost right here, when he gets a car, when Mike Wallace gets a car right up on his bumper, you'll see that draft boost, that horsepower boost go up, and he knows how to use that. And here we got Kevin Harvick taking advantage on the high side. We've seen that high side work. Look at this. We see the one car moving up, J.J. Yaley up on the high side. I'll tell you, that high line looking really good today.
Yeah, especially as long as you got somebody like Juan Pablo stuck right there on your bumper pushing you, and here he's going to the lead.
As Yaley to the left side. By the way, he's a teammate to Mike Wallace. Those cars are both owned by James Fence. Both have Carl Wegner engines on board. And Mike Wallace gets a little help from a nephew, a little help from your friends. As 19-year-old Steve Wallace. Now, there's a look at Steve in the Home Life Communities Dodge, who ran so well here last fall in the ARCA race, led the majority of that race, got a lot of valuable experience and finished second. Now he's being shown up there trying to help Uncle Mike in the draft.
Yeah, you know, Rusty Wallace, he's not up here with us. He's taking a little bit of a break, but you got him to think he's at home watching this on TV cheering for Steven. This is looking really good for Steven.
Yeah, but you're sure that Mike's out front here and saying, all right, young man, respect your elders here a little bit. Just help me along. Stay right there. You're in a good spot to push me and keep me in the lead.
Yeah, let's see how that works out. I guarantee if he gets open, he's going to go by Mike.
Now 15 lead changes. The great thing about Talladega, you can have 3 or 4 different leaders a lap, but it only counts when you come across the start-finish line. And now Steve Wallace has been able to push the 7 car. By the way, the Mike Wallace car he's driving back there was the car that Dale Earnhardt Jr. won in Daytona with in 2004. They bought it from them and didn't change a thing. Still has the 2004 Chevy Monte Carlo nose on it.
I don't think I'd have changed it either, the way that thing ran. Of course, obviously the guy behind the wheel had a lot to do with that, but we got a guy right here, Mike Wallace, that knows what to do with that car too.
Yeah, we're seeing how the draft boost works here. You see that 74-plus horsepower. When you get that number 2 Clint Boyer right up on the bumper, it really makes a difference. You can see how they just blow right by the 66.
Yeah, a valuable lesson learned there, and that's what you're going to have to do. You find out what you can and can't do, and Steven found out that those guys weren't willing to go with him right at that particular time. But he'll work himself back up there later on and see if it works then.
And that loud thud you heard a moment ago, that was Dad Rusty throwing a hammer against the wall. And I'm told Rusty's trying to work his way. He's got 21 years of honeydew list backed up from all his years of cup racing, and I'm told he's supposed to be in the mountains hanging pictures today with his hammer and sneakers. But I promise you, there's a hole in the wall now when he saw Steve move up to the outside. Now, what about the one car of J.J. Yaley, who moved up there and had a shot to take a lead a moment ago? What's going on with him, Mike?
Well, Doc, he's got a little bit of front end damage, and because of that, you can take a look at this. This is part of his front grille. They needed to cut this off the grille so they could get air to the radiator. That was the only way air was going to flow through there. Problem is, the aerodynamics have been affected a little bit. They're trying to massage that and kind of construct a new front grille. They're going to put this on the next time that car comes down pit road. But as good as J.J. Yaley's running right now, he's running with an impaired race car.
Yeah, Mike, that's a great example of what happens. You can get yourself pushed up to the front, but once you get up there in that clean air, then that's when it starts to hurt you. So these guys will look for that next opportunity to work on that car a little bit more.
Yeah, right here we see him. He's got in a line of cars. He's got these cars in front of him to be able to bust through that air. But if he ever gets to the lead, his car, his front end is going to have to bust that air. And with that big hole in the front, it's really going to hurt him. It's going to just slow that car down when he gets in the lead. So he's just taking advantage of this draft right now.
Great NASCAR Busch Series racing here at Talladega Super Speedway. 10th stop of the year on the $50 million NASCAR Busch Series Tour. And it has been an event-filled early 50 laps, including a wild flip on lap 26 by Kyle Busch. Fortunately, he's okay. It is Mears, Gilliland, Krisolov, Steve Wallace, and Mike Wallace in the top 5 here. Back in just a moment. Back at Talladega Super Speedway, we are under yellow once again, this for the 4th time today. And at these speeds, it doesn't take much at all to have a problem. And there's a 25 car of 31-year-old David Gilliland. And here's what happened to him just a moment ago.
Well, it looked like David had thoughts where he had a push from the 33 car of Tony Stewart, and he had thoughts of going around Casey Mears, the leader, on the outside. But Tony was just basically faking him out and went to the inside, and then David tried to cover that spot and just wasn't there for him to get back down.
Yeah, that's a risky move when you pull down in front of somebody that's coming like that. And, you know, it might, especially at this point of the race, it might have been better just to stay up a lane to risk something to get clipped. But this is a fairly aggressive move by Tony. He's kind of pushing him up through there and trying to go for that spot. And I think Dave Burns, you've got more on Tony Stewart.
That's right, Andy. Been monitoring his radio, and he said right after that, he said, David can't just come down and try to cover that position every time he doesn't want me to pass him. So you guys have kind of called it right. Tony stuck his nose in there, and David was trying to block.
Yeah, it looks like he learned a hard lesson right there, Dave. It's, you know, that's just kind of this kind of racing. It takes years sometimes to figure out how to do it, and you got a good lesson there.
Yeah, you're a little aggravated as a driver that you thought that you had that push from the car behind you, that you were going to go take the lead, and the next thing you know, he's kind of made a fake to you, and he's trying to cover that inside then, and you try to get back there to block it. And again, with these rules and things, yeah, he would. It's easy to sit here and say now would have been better off to have waited and tried to make that move again later, lost what spots.
Here, pit stops become the order of the day under this caution flag as they head down pit road at 55 miles per hour. Mike Massaro.
And Mike Bliss on pit road. Team car on Armando Fitz saying the car is good, but they don't have third gear. That's going to be a problem on this restart. Watch the 22 as we go back to green. 4 tires. Jamie.
Well, Mike, Kevin Harvick is in. He said the 14 of Kyle Krisolov, the 42 of Juan Pablo Montoya are pushing him in the wrong direction. He needs to get around them and get up to Tony Stewart to do some drafting. Dave?
Speaking of Tony, Jamie, 4-tire change, no chassis adjustment, but they are going to put a patch of bare bond tape on the right front of that car where he rubbed on the 25. Alan.
You see Casey Mears already gone, just right side tires and the top off of fuel. He pitted from the lead. He will hold the lead off the set of stops.
All right, pit stops are completed here at Talladega after the caution involving the 25 car of David Gilliland, by the way, who will start on the outside front row alongside Jeff Gordon for Sunday's Nextel Cup event here at Talladega. We'll go green when we come back.
Well, let's look again now at the race highlights. It has been action-packed at Talladega. These are brought to you by Holiday Inn. It started early. And Brad Doherty, Martin Truex had won 3 in a row. He suffered the damage on this incident.
Yeah, he really did. And like Jeff Burton said earlier, it's all been miscalculations. All of the accidents we've seen thus far have been just inches away from not happening.
This one, the most severe. The number 5 car, driven by Kyle Busch, who's done everything but win a NASCAR Busch race this year. And then the flames. And everybody had to hold their breath. But as the fellows upstairs have told you, the safest race cars in the world. He'll get out and walk away from this horrifying appearing accident. But he will not be returning. He's free to leave. Junior's not jumping in that car, folks. And then you talk about got to trust your spotter. Watch this with Regan Smith. The hood comes up. He cannot see the track. He's virtually blinded as they take him on into the pits. They yank that hood off. He's back on the track. Now, Brad, let me ask you now about Tony Stewart, who's involved in another incident, the little faking and diving here with David Gilliland.
Yeah, David Gilliland tried to come back down and cover that spot. Kind of a similar accident he had with Kyle Busch earlier. Tony Stewart's been very aggressive. He's marching to the front. If you see him coming, give him some room.
Let's check in quickly with Dave.
And Brent, I want you to listen to some radio from Tony Stewart. You kind of get the feeling from the cockpit of everything that's happened. They're coming back on pit road, by the way, because they have a bad vibration in that 33 car. So they're going to do some more work on that car. Right front fender damage we talked about when they were tightening the lugs. But listen to this radio. Listen to Tony, what he's saying.
Choppy. I mean, it makes me look like I'm dumping everybody, and I'm not.
And he feels badly about that because earlier when Kyle Busch wrecked so badly, he was involved in that. But so was the 42 car. And that's where Tony wasn't completely culpable. He kept checking. Hey, is Kyle Busch okay? He felt badly, but, you know, nothing really that he wanted to get involved in. Same thing with the 25. Just felt like he was protecting his territory.
All right, thank you. And Dale Jarrett, let me ask you, you've been where Tony Stewart's been many, many times when a car begins to move out and you begin to take the spot away. Did Tony do what ordinarily most veteran drivers would do, or should he have backed off a little bit?
No, I can't say that he, you know, you can make a case for both guys. Should David said, okay, I made a mistake that time, I'll drop back here and come back. And could Tony have backed out and given David that spot back? Certainly they could have, but that's what makes them both race drivers and very competitive drivers, because they don't want to give up that spot. But yeah, I can't see anything wrong with what happened right there. That's racing, and what people have to understand, we're sitting here watching it on TV, and it's very easy to critique it and criticize someone and say they should have done this or done that. You have to understand, these cars are traveling over 190 miles an hour. You're making a decision in a split second, and these things are just going to happen with this type of racing.
Well, one thing I have to do, I have to agree with Tony Stewart, what he said a while ago on the radio. It does look like he's been dumping these guys. It really does.
Yeah, it does that. And, you know, there are days that you just seem like that you're in the middle of everything that's going on, and certainly with what happened earlier in the week with the starting with his radio show, you know, things just kind of build up. But again, these things are just going to happen. I do want to bring up a point, Andy, back to our conversation at the start of this show, that hanging back there is not too bad of an idea. These guys have been running second, been in a bad spot.
Yeah, I knew you were going to bring that up.
All right, let's see who's the next one up front that may get a tap somewhere, somehow. As we go back to green flag racing, 57 laps to go, 60 in the books here at Talladega Super Speedway. In the Aaron's 312 and Casey Mears at the front of the field.
You know, we've seen great racing already, and we still have 57 laps of probably the best racing we're going to see all day to go. And it's just incredible. I don't think that right now, you have to say that Casey Mears has an excellent car. He's come from the back a couple of different times to get to the front, as we see another challenge for the lead.
Everything starts out single file, nice and easy. The next thing you know, they don't hardly make a lap, and they start forming 2 and 3 lines.
Well, another one of the Joe Gibbs cars going to the high side. That's Eric Almirola. The young man who sat on the pole at Daytona, first ever driver of Cuban descent to win a pole for a major NASCAR event. Very proud of that, he told me.
He was going for the lead, and another lesson learned. Now he comes across the line at about 7th place. So these are things that are just going to happen. He had such a good run. He thought he had that push that could get him to the front. And now he's going to have to look at battling his way back, and he's not getting any help as you see him still falling back.
It's like He slotted into a little hole there on the bottom. If that outside line ever gets organized, though, it just comes charging to the front. Here we see one trying to organize with Stephen Wallace, it looks like, heading them up.
All right, by the way, the last set of pit stops, we had a couple of cars that tires roll away, the 7 and the 21. Here's a 21 of Kevin Harvick, and they have a tire roll away during the pit stop. And as there you see one rolling out on the, and he had to go to the end of the longest line as they go back and pick up that tire.
Yeah, that was kind of like a receiver missing a perfect pass there. You know, they got the tire back over there, but it hit the wall and came back.
Yeah, that won't be too big of a penalty for Harvick here when we're talking about Talladega and the draft, the way it works. It won't take him long to get back up front.
All right, the 24 is Casey Mears. You see his speed there. And Juan Pablo Montoya behind him, and Steve Wallace on the outside. He's got the high line, and DJ, that has been the preferred line. Wallace in the 66, and behind him the 16 is Greg Biffle.
Yeah, but he's going to have that help. You see, Steve Wallace has a very good car, but Greg Biffle right now is not close enough to push him up there. So we're going to see the shorter way around be the preferred line right now. And so you see these top three cars with Casey Mears, Juan Pablo Montoya, and Clint Boyer making their way back because Greg Biffle wasn't close enough to push Stephen Wallace on up there. As these outside lines get lined up a little bit better and a little bit tighter, then we'll see them go back to the front.
As we check in the leaders' pits with Alan.
Doctor's talking some fuel strategy with Chad Walter, Casey Mears' crew chief. He says they are short of the finish on fuel. As a matter of fact, everybody I've checked with down the turn 1 into pit road will have to stop again for at least 7, maybe 6 laps of fuel to the finish. The question will be tire strategy. Mears took just right sides on that pit stop, but I've already heard one driver, Carl Edwards, talk about the fact that as this race wears on, the handling is becoming more of a factor than they expected, and he might want tires on his final pit stop, where his crew chief was thinking maybe they would just get gas then. Dave?
Alan, 2 cars back in that blue number 2. Clint Boyer, 2 right side tires as well on that last stop, and they removed some more tape from that grill. Clint was running hot earlier. In fact, was running in an 8th place spot, dropped back to 24th to get some clean air, and running out front earlier was able to put clean air in that car to cool it down, but they're still battling those temperatures. Jamie?
Well, Dave, the pit strategy has been rather unique for number 9, Casey Kane. Ray Evernham is his team owner. He's up on the box watching over Mike Shiplett. He's the crew chief, and he's a first-year crew chief. 2 pit stops ago, he told Casey to stay out. He was the only car that stayed out. Ray Evernham got on him and said, we should have come in. You should not have kept him out. Now we have to gamble. Long story short, last pit stop, guys, he came in with 3 laps to spare. They just topped it off, and Ray Evernham told me Casey Kane can make it to the end. Mike.
Just saw a lot of emotion out of Bryant Frazier and the Stephen Wallace team as Stephen Wallace took the lead and now leads the field through the tri-oval. Stephen Wallace came into this race extremely confident. Ran in the ARCA race a year ago and finished 2nd. Felt like he could do something just as good, if not better, this afternoon, guys.
All right, Steve Wallace became the 15th different leader. We've now had 21 lead changes, and we still got 52 laps to go here at Talladega.
One problem with being a rookie is it's hard to get respect out there. He got the lead. All he needed was just a few of his buddies just to hang out behind him. What did they do? They split him, 1 on each side.
Yeah, Greg Biffle and Casey Mears decided they wanted to be back in front. They were not going to let this young man steal their glory. And the racing is just incredible right now. You see, as these guys tighten up and then go back to the front, it's just amazing.
And here we see Danny O'Quinn in the 17 car. Man, what a ride he's giving this thing. This is his first start back for Roush after winning Rookie of the Year last year, making good on it. Man, he's making that outside groove work.
You know, Danny told me in the garage area yesterday, he said, I've only got 3 shots. I got 3 chances this year in the Jack Roush car. I got here, I've got Kentucky and Loudon. I've got to do well enough to attract someone to sponsor me to get me back in here full time after winning Rookie of the Year a year ago. So a lot of pressure on Danny O'Quinn to run well and get a good finish here in that 17 car today. With more on him, let's check in his pits with Dave.
Doc, it wasn't an early entry in this race. In fact, it was a late entry. Roush needed someone to run sponsorship for Dish Network in the race, so they got the 17 car. They got Danny. They had to switch out Matt Kentz's seat, which is a little difficult because Danny's a bigger guy, and they also installed a roof hatch on that car. It's the only one with one in the field. In case Danny gets in trouble and has to escape out the top of his car, he can do it.
Casey Mears trying to hang on up front in the 24 car. The 42 behind him is Juan Pablo Montoya. It has been an event-filled afternoon here at Talladega Superspeedway. We talk about high speeds on the high banks and high risk. This race has had it all, and we still have 50 laps to go. NHRA Powerade Drag Racing Series roars through Atlanta this weekend. 8,000 horsepower, top fuel and funny cars, and 180 mile-per-hour motorcycles. Qualifying comes your way at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, and the finals are tomorrow at 7 Eastern Time, all on ESPN2 and ESPN2 HD. As we head down to Tim Brewer and our Chevy Cutaway car. Tim?
Tell you what, Jerry, when the guys come down pit road, this piece of tape on this steering wheel is very important to have it positioned right here. Crew chief's going to holler at the driver, steering wheel position. The next thing you're going to know, they're going to come around the front of the car. The tire positioning is very critical. This fender opening is so tight around the circumference of this tire right here. If he hadn't got that tape in the right position, the guy changing the tire cannot get the tire off, can't get the one back on. So it's a very critical area, and it's due to aerodynamics. These guys don't want to give up anything, so they bring the driver in. We've got to have that wheel position just to get the tires on and off the race car. Back up to you guys.
All right, thank you, Tim. For more information, you can log on to ESPN.com, search word Auto Tech. As you understand what happens here in NASCAR racing by virtue of our Chevy Cutaway car. Well, we have 23. We've had 23 lead changes this afternoon at Talladega, and it's exactly what you expect here. Drivers, and Dale Jarrett talks about it at the top of the show to Andy Petrie. If you start toward the back of the pack and you stay out of trouble, then when it's time to go in the final 45 or 50 laps, they begin to move toward the front. And guess what? We got a couple of guys named Harvick and Earnhardt who are doing just that.
Yeah, these guys, I've been watching them. They've been actually in another little small group, about 20 car lengths behind this league draft, just hanging out. Me and Dale were talking about it. I said, I hate it when you're right. You know, you talk about all these wrecks happening with the first and second place cars and third place cars, and these guys hanging around in the back and avoiding them. But we watched that, and all of a sudden now you see Dale Earnhardt Jr. try to just take his car right up to the front, and he's made a little headway in just a few laps.
Yeah, he has. And basically probably what he was doing, he knows he has a good race car. The restarts have been a little bit wild. And so I think that's exactly what he was looking at, was while they were 3 and 4 wide, he didn't want to be a part of that for the time being. So he let them get down to really just 2 wide, and then that's when he started making his charge, and he's up into the top 10 now.
Guys, the 7 car of Mike Wallace, who was one of our early leaders, has slowed a little bit, has slowed up compared to the pace he was running earlier. There's the onboard camera for Mike and the Geico Chevrolet. And apparently an engine problem as we watch. I'll look down to the right side of that hood.
I think that's maybe overheating a little bit. He's just getting back to get that car some air. I don't know if he might have had a piece of paper to get on the grill or something like that. I think he's just trying to get back to get that cooled down. That's where we run the overflow out, so we can see it overflow.
The radiator overflow, when they get to a certain temperature, it builds pressure enough to pop that valve and let that overflow come right out the windshield.
All right, here's Kevin Harvick and Dale Earnhardt Jr. They have now teamed up together and sailed by Casey Mears. There is Mears in that second draft you guys are talking about. And Kevin Harvick trying to lead for the first time today, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. says, no, it's my turn as they come to the tri-oval, and it'll be Earnhardt Jr.
Well, I tell you, it didn't take him long. He was back there in that second group looking like he wasn't anything, and all of a sudden he punches a button and he takes that thing up to the front.
Yeah, less than 10 laps ago, he was back in 24th spot.
Hey, guys, look at the crowd on their feet, over 100,000 strong when that 8 car went in the front. And by the way, 3 laps ago, this 8 car was 21st on the grid. Reminiscent of anybody you've seen do that before here at Talladega?
Passed by him before he's done to win there late, and as a lot of other people have right here. But I don't think this race is anywhere close to over. Here comes Casey Mears back on the outside with a push.
I think Dale Earnhardt Jr. has proven what he can do with his race car, and he may just be content to hang around back there. He doesn't have to lead every lap. He just needs to lead the last one. And I've seen another Dale do that before, too. His name's Dale Jarrett. You've used that strategy many times.
If you car. They seem to work really well together.
And for more on Earnhardt Jr., let's check in with Dave.
Andy, you were commenting on whether or not Junior might just back off now that he knows what his car can do, although he goes to the outside now of David Reagan. That happened earlier. He was racing in the pack. He said, man, these guys are racing like crazy. Dropped way out of the front pack just to save his race car.
And if you want to watch Dale Earnhardt Jr. sliding back out of that lead draft, you get a great shot courtesy of our friends at NASCAR fans. Get to the finish line for the past 20. Beautiful panoramic view from high atop this 3,000-acre facility. Talladega Superspeedway, which was an Army air repair station. During World War II, they repaired B-25 bombers, and then when the war was over, the land was converted, and they began to build a racetrack here in 1968.
We're going to see this 8 car come back to the front because Kevin Harvick slowed just a little bit to get behind Junior. He could have probably gone around him and left him hanging out, but that shows what kind of respect Junior has out there. And Harvick got in there. He's got the 42 right behind him. His outside line's going to come again. Now we see Tony trying to get up and want to be a part of that, but he's a little bit late in that move.
Yeah, it's like the Pied Piper. He just gets up there. Everybody wants to line up behind the fast race car, and he just proved to everybody he had a real fast race car. So they're gonna let him pull him up there.
You know, we used to say the same thing about his dad, wanting to know why everybody wanted to follow him. Well, he knew what to do. He was going to get to the front, so why not get in behind him and get yourself up there?
And give a call to Ward Burton, who was running second on lap number 4, lap number 9, when he was involved in a caution here. His car got bent up, spun sideways, and now he has battled his way back to 7th position at the back of that single file draft. With more on him, let's check in his pits with Mike.
Well, Doc, they paid a lot of attention to that race car after the incident early in the race. They brought him down pit road on 3 consecutive laps. During the process, they changed a total of 8 tires. That's because after changing the first 4, they discovered a vibration and corrected it, not altogether with the second set, but it has been at minimum aggravation at best. And Ward really happy with the race car. Hasn't said all that much, but, you know, he feels like this is a good enough race car to win. It's the car he had in Daytona earlier this year, which was also caught up in an altercation, pretty much completely rebuilt from the A post forward, the C post backwards, but it looks like a pretty good race car right now.
All right, thank you very much. Great effort by the 27 crew. And how about the move by, or the effort today by the 14 of Kyle Krisiloff? And that crew has really worked hard, and the young man's driving probably the best race I have seen him drive all year long.
Yeah, he's been in contention all day long. We hadn't talked about him a whole lot, but he's been up there going back and forth from up front, kind of coming to the back. Now he's got a real strong horse behind him, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. pushed him by these guys.
And they're 4 wide right there as they go into turn 3.
Wow. All right, Dale Earnhardt Jr., a 6-time winner at Talladega. Great memories for him, but even better memories of the man who would have been 56 years old tomorrow. Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s birthday, April 29th. You can't come to Talladega without remembering one of the greatest performances in NASCAR history. Back in October of 2000, Dale Earnhardt Sr. from 18th position in 3 laps to go to take the win here. One of the most phenomenal efforts I have ever seen, and we were here to make that call, myself, the late Benny Parsons, and Ned Jarrett. What a memorable day. There's a look at the numbers. Rookie of the Year back in '79, a 7-time Nextel Cup champion, tying the King Richard Petty. His 76th and final win came here on that day in 2000. And, of course, who will forever forget when he finally won the Daytona 500 in 1998. And there's Dale Earnhardt Jr. as he is trying to himself set sail back toward the front, but he has got a ways to go, because Carl Edwards now has gone back around Juan Pablo Montoya, as we now have had our 26th different lead change. We are 4 away from tying the record, and 16 different cars have led.
It looks like nobody's been able to hold the lead. These guys can get up there. We see Kevin Harvick getting a big push from Eric Almirola in the 20. They get a big lead, get out there, but they just don't seem to be able to hold the lead for any length of time.
Yeah, Andy, that's just what this aero package is about. It makes such a big hole that you get that run, and you see these guys way out front right now. But here, before they get back into turn 1, they're going to have company again. And it's just amazing. They get tucked up and get such a big run. 2 cars get away from them. But you're going to find out here in just a second that they're not going to be able to hold the lead either as another group of cars comes up.
Alan, you've got more on Carl Edwards?
Yeah, a couple quick things. First of all, he got shuffled out of line by his Roush teammate, David David Reagan a little while ago. He and Casey Mears in the 24 have worked really well together, but when Carl gets trapped in heavy traffic just like this, something begins to happen with his car, and you'll see him occasionally dart out of line. Listen.
24, I'm cool following him. I just got to keep the nose cool. I'm going to follow him for a lap or two more, though. No problem.
Overheating has been a problem for several cars on pit road today, so if you see that 60 pop out of line every now and then, he's just trying to keep the temperature under control. Just something else to think about when he's in all this heavy traffic.
Yeah, Alan, one of the problems with this real tight drafting is that you don't get any air in the front. When you got your front end and that grill right up on that bumper, there's hardly any air going in the front grill opening. So these guys can do that for a while. They can stay tucked in real tight, but then they'll have to breathe it, get it out there, and get us some fresh air, cool the radiator back down, and it go back at it.
Yeah, we've heard Andy talk about the aerodynamics of these cars. We heard Tim Brewer talking about how important that is, the front of these cars. And so we're going to run as much tape as we possibly can on the front to make them go faster if we can get out front. The thing is, when you stay packed up like this, you're not getting any air to that. And so that makes it very difficult. Sometimes you just have to get out and breathe it a little bit.
That was a great shot from the bumper cam to show you that grill opening and how these guys tape it up. Try to restrict that flow a little bit, just get a little extra speed.
And you heard that radio communication. For more information, you can log on to ESPN.com, search word communications. Fine folks at Nextel. You'll be able to hear that driver crew chief commentary and driver spotter commentary. A typical Talladega afternoon, lots of different lead changes, lots of different leaders, and no one seems to be able to stay there for very long.
No, we saw the 8 car of Dale Earnhardt Jr. make his way up to the front just a few laps ago, and now he's back in 19th. I think Junior was just finding out exactly how long it was going to take him to get his car to the front so he can calculate that and be ready at the end of this race. Looks like we've got some hood pin problem maybe for the 20 car.
And there's a hood pin flapping on the front of Eric Almirola's car, who is our leader. We've already seen one hood come flying up on Regan Smith's car, come right across the windshield. And Andy, as a crew chief, you see that, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm not too worried about that one hood pin being out of there. We got a good shot, a great camera shot there of the other 3 hood pins being secured. So I think NASCAR will be okay with having 3 in there. But if they get more than get another one that pops out of there, then I'd get worried.
Yeah, and it wasn't one of the outside ones. I think that's where you really get worried, because that hood could possibly bend up just a little bit, being one of the outside. But this being one of the 2 that towards the middle of the race car, as we see, chances are that everything will be okay there. And I think NASCAR, as you said, will be all right with that happening.
There's a look at the progression for Eric Almirola, the 23-year-old Tampa, Florida native, making his 6th start of the year. All the way up to 3rd position, now getting shuffled back there right in front of Steve Wallace in the Home Life Communities effort. We have now equaled the all-time NASCAR Busch Series record for lead changes at Talladega. 30 lead changes. 16 different cars have led as Kevin Harvick, now reigning NASCAR Busch champion, goes to the point, and here comes Montoya.
He has a really fast race car. Seems his car really runs good off the corner. He gets a good run there, and he'd gotten a push from Greg Biffle to send him up there. Now he's going to need Biffle to get back to his bumper, or he's going to be hung out on the outside once again.
Yeah, the 42 car has been consistently at the front all day.
Right.
And trouble on a racetrack. A couple of cars involved. Biffle in the 16 car down across the grass. There's Greg Biffle sliding, the former champion. John Wood in the 47 car.
Okay. Somebody got us in the right rear, guys. Turned his head on in the wall.
So caution for the 5th time a day, and John Wood was having a very good run, as was Greg Biffle, but John Wood just can't buy a break.
He sure can't. Very talented young man and driver, but that last 3 weeks just hasn't had any luck whatsoever. We have a look here at the replay. See Biffle right in the middle of the racetrack there. We got Carl Edwards coming up to him.
Oh, we see a big hard bump draft right there, and that was just, there was just too much closure rate. They were coming too fast into each other.
Yeah, and he was pushing him to the 42, and then the 16 car, Greg Biffle, couldn't go any further, and he got one more big shot, and that turned him to the right into the wall.
Biffle at 190 plus miles an hour with that Ford Fusion, comes across and just catches the right rear fender of John Wood. As we ride on board now with the 90 car of Stephen Light and see his point of view.
Good job, man. Good job. All right, talk to me when you get a chance. Just just a little.
Oh, John Wood just can't catch it. John Wood was one of those cars laying back with Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Bobby Labonte and those guys. He'd been back in that other pack, and it looked like he had just kind of started making his move to the front, and then gets caught up in somebody else's wreck.
Well, there's an example that my deal doesn't work all the time either. So you just never know when it's gonna happen to you, and it is unfortunate for John Wood. You know, that team is working extremely hard. I think the world of the Wood family, and John does have a lot of talent, but he just can't seem to be in the right place at the right time here recently.
All right, here's Shane Huffman, who is our Aaron's Lucky Dog Free Pass Award winner here. He will get his lap back. He is the first car one lap down here as we work the fifth caution flag of the afternoon, the U.S. Navy Chevrolet. And he will get back his lap that he was behind the leaders.
Yeah, this is going to be a huge break for Shane Huffman because he's got a fast race car, and now he's going to be able to get up here and race him.
Pit road is very busy right now, Mike Massaro.
Mike Bliss comes in running second. What a run for him. He started 31st. Problem, though, they still do not have third gear. This was a blessing to have the caution come out here under yellow so they can pit. They can get off pit road a little quicker. Jamie.
Kevin Harvick came in, 1 can of fuel, no tires, guys. He says his foot hurts from pushing the throttle for so long. Dave.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. on pit road for 4 tires, but he may have a hole in the radiator because of debris. Don't see any water underneath, but water pressure going down. Allen.
Only for Casey Mears. Interesting because his left side tires were put on the car at lap 27, and he's going to go to the finish at 117 on those same tires.
Wow, take a look at the race off pit road. Marcus Ambrose, the Wood Brothers car, gaining 10 spots up to 7th position. Mears up 4. You heard Alan Bestwick say he took fuel only. Wow, how about those Goodyear tires on the 24 car? And Montoya up a couple of spots, but it was Harvick the first off of pit road. Caution for the 5th time. This incident. Video.
David, you got a comment?
Go ahead.
All right, David, we've got 24 hours to go here. You did a great job keeping contact on there. You like and do you plans as far as moving forward here in his last laps?
Well, got a little beginning back on here. Go by it. Got a note. And you know, he gets pretty good. We might him do.
Sounds like a good luck.
Jerry back. Petrie, got a copy. Jerry, guys, scrambling down there trying to make it deal with his last lap. Your last pit stop here at the show.
He was learning today. Back and forth. I got that pretty deep. We can back up with him.
Yeah, Tim. No, we got the good.
I spoke with Backstreet, Roger. He's with Michael now 8 years. A year ago when Michael drove the car here in this year, said Michael had a good car, but he waited a little too late to start making his move. It got from the back of the pack all the way to 11th. So he couldn't go because he ran out of lap. We've learned a little bit less. You know, we need a little time in the
yeah, I'm sure he should have David 24. So make sure we don't run out of laps and get there. Now, good one. Seeing how fast it is for you.
Alan Best caught up with.
Was telling me impact Stewart. Okay.
I'm all right. Unfortunately, we have a really good car. I'm a good car, and I just built a car for here. This time, it's captain's a big issue, and unfortunately, there's a little common sense drafting. If you push the guy in front of you against the guy in front of you, you almost have to see through the car and see if against that guy. Because hey, that's what you have to be careful of. Is pushing the guy. You don't really run to push the guy hard when he's by. It doesn't matter. 66 lead and me, but you got two guys against each other. That's when they happen. It's always happened. And I just got they're like a ball, but behind us.
You're okay.
Off the down below apron, Earnhardt. You heard the report that he might have a hole in the radiator from on the track. Dave,
that is the issue. The pressure was okay. It broke and forth. He believes it went Talladega.
Yeah, second. Yeah, second.
Make it somewhere.
Streak for Earnhardt operated in a row between him and Martin Truex into Truex limited. Dale Earnhardt.
And that feud that you can stay to the front of you for the two to go. Pulled out 5 or 6 lead right now. One problem with far out here, just cars it's going to kind of be a up for these. They get lined behind you. Come a few laps. These two down. He's got the distance now, but able to stay off the corner. Well, he's able to stay so close that it makes it these guys down. Will here a couple
10 separation between the and the 24 of years, and take the draft boost there. And drafting of the 40 car on here 24 kind of someone to
being a and here you to that. Even though these way out, it kind of leaves you out and by your basically. And these guys line just by on it.
Well, get some horror boost on that draft a moment ago.
That 20 has been strong. We've seen a very big race. You're going to have him, and that may be the order, especially if you have cars really to win this. Everybody just see the taller and want to get
20 cars will lead to Talladega, Alabama. 20 laps to go. Ford Cameron. 90 cars even like is right to 40. Reed so.
Yeah, we have a lot about today. I think one this taking his time and got his position to have a here at the end.
Yeah, he's been one of the guys that was hanging back earlier with Bonnie and Del Jr. I saw him back hanging out inside of laps to go, and it's time to button and look what Reed's done.
Yeah. Junior garage best we could
talk for his so far. It's been here. Get a word. Like it was. What happened?
Mission broke. Third on just everything normal. I mean, normal. Normal restart. You kind of these guys work hard and trust in parts. You know what I mean? Because as technical as it is, and shouldn't have. These guys work really hard. Run a couple here, and we look good for out here and finish.
And from the back, front, back. What's it out there today?
It's been, you know, I was in the back. I want to be up, and when I want, I can drive there and car just on guys get there and wait and out. You know, once me people are 3 wide, so we and put it at the end.
Extreme.
Wait, there's Wallace. He's next one. Montoya, couple of dogs hooking up behind the car of Edwards as they go 3 wide. Laps are down at Talladega. Pablo Montoya one win on he led oval 1 week ago, but his of the year in Mexico City road course.
Out of the way now, and you know, the next we need to win. I want to win. That's where we need.
Talladega Speedway once in Eric Roll of Florida had contact with him. Gibbs Chevrolet. The yellow flag for the time with 15 to go here at Talladega. Right side, watch the car, and behind him, Ford Bird. And the car goes up the racetrack. Great Bobby
coming through there. Things were kind of up. Everybody like they wanted. Were kind of pulling in for laps down on the, but they got coming up, and it was over. Bird from behind, he got in 20 car. It's another one of the cases to really in the corner. Things are probably going to happen.
Forward here, David Rudin, forward Karen Street. Valuable spotters here to help you when smoke is blowing in front of the windshield. You'll be able to trust what you're hearing. All right, pit is open. There are 15 laps to go in the field behind the pace car. Now is work continuing on the 20 car as down there trying to be able to get that car repaired. Dave Rogers and company, and will anyone make an entry on the road?
You can see guys got plenty to make it to the end. Handling there's not an issue, so we'll see. Some of these guys may come in back, and we see some of them ducking down back there, and it wouldn't hurt. I mean, you don't lose anything coming in if you're at the back of the field like this.
Here's Bobby Hamilton Jr. in the McDonald 35-17. Quinn, there's Toya, who was 5 laps today on an oval as they come down at 50 miles per hour. And Dave, to you.
And Pablo didn't want to give up track position. That guy stood on the brakes as hard as I spotted off tires. Going to make just a chassis. The car was getting tough to turn in traffic. On Pablo and here, very good car still bumper in the front. Juan Pablo's very all the way around in terms of its could help in here.
I can tell it Super Speedway the all-time leaders in the car Busch history 26 years. Kevin Harvick in that position. He came all the way from 31st.
Cars with Tony Stewart and the guys to the front, but I don't think it'll be much trouble to get up there. We got 30 laps to go. It's liable to be a pretty exciting finish, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, we've got some guys that have done a terrific job. David Reagan up in 3rd. Kyle Christoph has been up at least 15. He sits himself up in the 20 right now.
There's Stephen out of North Carolina. And he finished 8th at Nashville this year. Top 10. There you see the progression. But you can count the Robert cars at Talladega and TJ test too.
Exactly right. The horsepower that Hood does a fantastic job of it. Fortunate to utilize that power for a lot of years. And Stephen, he's a little bit better being able to come with
NASCAR part of a crowd just over 100,000 here at Talladega Super Speedway. 13 laps to go. Let's listen to the drivers and spotters. Go.
Clear. You have the 77 right in single file back to about 60. Yeah, steering on that. I want to get by these other three. That's outside that close.
That's clever.
That's where that just gives the right to the and we are
of the car in the big one here with less than 10 laps to go. And you're and any what he lost go. Do. Oh. Of the you look and watch the cars that the watch car out of the and see this and the next right. There's right there, right. They or then you got yeah last had to about in the position position front of him. So the here's
just be.
I don't know. Driving and the whole
That's my
next week. Offered David, what happened? First He's good. Doing from on final lap.
4 change. Andy Dale punch
last bring there. No. Back. Is so for the full speed that they're to so even involved he's wasn't just and just it up. You know, but next other today